pjnet.tv. It is 9 p.m. Eastern Coast of the United States. It is time to go live. Our bumper is running and we are recording. We are streaming. We have a first-time guest waiting in our green room, and we have a chat room waiting to hear what she has to say. Let's start a countdown to Studio 8, starting now. Well, good evening and welcome. This is pjnet.tv. I'm your host, Coach Prasick, and it is a wonderful night. Before we get started, let me make an announcement or two. Or first, let me thank you for joining us wherever you're at. You might be on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, or if you're doing it right, you're in the pjnet.tv chat room watching this and meeting new friends. But wherever you are watching this, we are glad that you either made time and made a commitment to join us tonight, or you simply stopped scrolling. Either way, we're just happy that you're here, and it is our hope that your time spent here will be blessed and you will leave here feeling stronger and encouraged and joyful, and that's what we're about. In the way of announcements, Michelle Medlock Adams, as she said last week, normally joins us at the bottom of the hour at 9:30 Eastern on Wednesdays. But last Wednesday, she told us it was her birthday today. So guess what? And Michelle is enjoying her birthday. So that's good news in a way, because that will give us as much time as we want to introduce you to a ministry that I am eager to hear about. I can't wait to find out what's going on and to tell us all about it. We have a special guest, first time ever, right here on pjnet.tv. And her name is, well, I forgot, so I'll put it on the screen. No, I didn't forget, Judy. It's Judy Capps, and she has a ministry. You know, Judy, we have from time to time, I've gone out on Facebook and said, if you know of anybody actually doing something, okay, we would like to have them on our program and have them tell their story. But we didn't have to dig around to find you. You've through a mutual friend, I believe, found us. And that mutual friend, I'm willing to bet, is JD.
That's right. He's a great friend, longtime friend.
Well, they don't get much better. And JD will be with us tomorrow evening at about 9:30. Judy, you actually have a ministry, okay? And we're going to get to talk all about it, and I want you to share all about it. But before I even ask you the story leading up, the chronology and all that stuff, I was on your website. I watched a video that you've recently produced, a little 2-minute video. Looking at your website, I keep seeing this word destiny. And yes. I almost just had to ask, how long has that been the driving force behind your life personally, as well as your ministry?
I think I came through a pretty traumatic childhood, and I came to know Christ when I was 20. But in 2008 is when my life really, really changed. And I realized that the baggage that I had been carrying around for so long didn't belong on me as a Christian, even though I had carried it for 28 years. So when I began to realize that Christ had paid for all that, and I began to let that go, that's when the things that had held me back left, and I realized that I had a call on my life. But until then, I was so beaten down by the past and the things and the lies that I had believed about myself that I was not ever going to walk in that destiny. So now that I'm free, I have a passion to set other people free, especially women who have been through a lot of trauma and a lot of hard places. And that's what God's called me to do, is to help other women obtain the freedom that I got in 2008. So that's when I became passionate about destiny, and not only my destiny, but the destiny of others.
Well, and we all have one.
That's
But
right.
your ministry is reaching out to those whose destiny has been blocked. And there are many situations, but it started out as single moms. I think you cite that every day some north of 8 million single moms wake up and your heart just goes out to them.
Yes, when I started out this ministry, I actually just had a dream in 2010, and my husband and I were on our 30th wedding anniversary. And I had this dream. It was a very long, detailed dream about a prototype. And women were living together in a community with their children in a multi generational model. So there were senior women that were living there as well. And I woke up from that dream and I told my husband, I said, I've had a very wild dream. Normally I dream about pizza or new shoes, new shoes. But this was definitely not one of those dreams. And so I wrote it all down in detail. And my husband and I talked about it, and we decided, what do you think we should do next? And what we decided to do next was just to say yes, that God, if this is you, we'll do it. And and so we did. We prayed and we said, God, this looks like something maybe you want us to do, and we've never done this before. I had never been on food stamps. I've never been divorced. I went straight from college to marriage, and I've been married to the same husband for 41 years. And so I had never experienced the things that I saw in that dream. But I just decided, if this is the Lord and He wants me to do it, I will. So we prayed that day, and a week later, after we got home, I got a phone call from Salvation Army here in our town. And I did know the director of the Salvation Army, but we had never really worked together or anything. I was still working with my husband in our own business, and we'd been working together for 28 years. And the director of the Salvation Army called me and said, Judy, I have a woman who is living in her car with two children. Would you be willing to help her? And since I had just had a dream the week before, and I had a whole plan from the Lord on what to do to help the woman, I said, absolutely, I will help her. I will help her. This was my call. Her name was Carla, and she had pushed her car into our city. Actually got a hernia while doing it, and she and her children were living in their car. And I began a journey with Carla. I said, Carla, I've never been down this pathway, but I have a plan. I have a plan, and we're going to link arms together, and I'm going to join you on this journey, and we will figure it out together. So that began the journey of helping one woman at a time. And I did not know at that time that there were 9 million single mothers that wake up to parent alone every day. But God did. And what happened with helping one woman began to escalate. And another woman and another woman and another woman began to contact me. They would connect with each other on Facebook. Salvation Army would find out. Then the safety shelter found out that I was willing to help single mothers with children. And it just kept growing. So I called my car my portable office, and I had women living in different rent houses across town, just running around. I would pick them up, take them to the park. We would do life coaching, Bible study, make a plan for their week. I'd help them figure out how to do their schedule, get back in school, and all of those things just from my car. Until 2012, when my husband came home one day and he said, I've been praying about it, and I think it's time to buy an apartment complex. So we decided to start looking for apartment complexes, and I wanted something that was good, because in the prototype, I really felt very clearly that God wanted me to honor people. If you're going to take someone and lift them out of poverty, then you don't put them in something that's run down and worn out. I felt like God really said, if you want to treat somebody like they are somebody, then put them in some place you put your own daughter.
Mm.
So the place that I was going to put the women was important to me. And we began with a realtor here in town, and she was the right realtor. The first apartment building was not the right place. It was all worn down and hadn't been remodeled. It was built in the 60s and had never been remodeled. So
Hmm.
that's me. And
Yeah.
I need remodeling at being a 60 model. So does that apartment building. So we didn't buy that apartment building, but she asked me that day, "What is it that you're doing?" And I said, "Well, I have these women that I'm helping, and my husband and I feel like it's time to grow into an apartment complex so that we can help more families at a time." And so she said, "Okay, this isn't the apartment building, but I have it. It was just listed 3 days ago." So I gathered a group of women and we went out to pray about the apartment complex. And on the way to the apartment complex, one of the women told me that I feel like the answer is at the cross. And we didn't know what that meant, but when we got to the apartment complex, there was a cross bricked in the end of the building. And you can't make those things up. So we knew that we were home. What had happened was a man had built the apartment building and he had donated it to his church.
Hmm.
And then the church didn't want to be in the apartment building business, so they had listed the apartment complex to sell it. So that's how we got our first apartment building for Hope.
Well, Judy, already I have heard some things that are distinctly different from so many ministries that try to help people in times of distress. Okay. First thing I noticed is that your approach is not to when you met. What was the name? The first woman, Carrie,
Carla.
Carla. I knew it started with a
Carla.
C. Okay. I've worked in relief, okay, all kinds of relief, disaster relief primarily, but the objective, it's not said, it's not written down, but it's very clear and very understood that the objective is to get Carla to the next town when we encounter those types of people, the homeless and those that you are doing something radically different because you are adopting, so to speak, these individuals and families and restoring them to fulfill the destiny, the plan that God has for them, whether that takes a week, a month, or how long does this take?
Well, one thing I've realized is nobody ever plans to be homeless. No one just decides that they're going to live in their car with their children. And there's a story behind every single person and why they've gotten to where they've gotten. And I believe that most people just need someone to believe in them. And we are a 3 to 4 year opportunity for single mothers to come and live in a fully furnished apartment. I believe in work and participation. So everyone that lives with us participates in the program, meaning they pay a participation fee to be in their apartment. And most moms have only the beds usually that their kids sleep in. They don't even usually have more than that. So we fully furnish their apartment. If they graduate, they get to take all of the furniture in their apartment with them to start a new life. But we believe that once a mom comes in and she knows she's got safety around her, she knows she's not going to have to worry about having to move every couple of months because she can't afford her bills, then we can get them back in school. We clean up their credit. We help them take personality tests and do Bible study with them so they can learn who they are in Christ. We help them open savings accounts. We do parenting classes. We'll launch women into their own businesses. We do microloans. And we have 3 to 4 years with someone. So we see them break those cycles. Usually, a lot of programs are 1 year programs, and they're
Mm-hmm.
about sometimes they're more about how many people move through the program. And I would
Mm-hmm.
rather take one person. I would have just been happy just taking Carla and helping Carla. become who Carla is. In fact, Carla is still working here in Mount Pleasant, and she manages all the buses at the bus barn for the independent school district here in town. And she's still in Mount Pleasant as a citizen, as a great citizen.
A restored life, living your
That's
destiny.
right.
Now, where were you when you had this dream back in, you said 2008, I believe?
Hmm.
Where were you? Northeast
Oh,
Texas? I mean,
I
you're.
was, no, I was on my 30th wedding anniversary, and we were in Hawaii.
Oh, where did you
We were
call
in
home?
Hawaii. Where do I call home? Mount Pleasant, Texas.
Okay,
That's where I live.
and
Yeah,
that was ground zero for this,
that's ground zero. That's right. That's
but
ground zero.
it went outward from there.
Yes, we actually started out with just Carla, and then we bought the apartment complex in 2012. And then in 2014, we got our 501c3. Up until then, my husband and I were just doing this by ourselves
Hmm.
because God told us to do it. He didn't tell anybody else to do it. But when I realized that this thing could get big, then we decided maybe we did need to get some help. And we decided to get our 501c3. In 2016, we had been praying for a multi purpose building. I was still running around meeting with people in my car, in my portable office, and we decided that we needed a building to gather in for Bible study. So we decided that I would just move in a storage building at the back on our property back there. We have 8 apartments on 8 acres, which incidentally is the number of new beginnings. So I thought that was interesting that I got 8 apartments because everybody was getting a new beginning back there. But as we prayed for the multi-purpose building, there is a large building in front of our property called, it was the Texas Workforce Solutions building at the time. And that building flooded on a Friday. I think the commode ran all weekend. And when the Workforce Solutions building, when they came to work on Monday, everything in the building had been fried with all the
Hmm.
water and the flooding. The sheetrock was three
Hmm.
feet wet up the wall, and
Hmm.
everything had been destroyed. So they moved the Workforce Solutions group out, came in and cut the sheetrock up, took the asbestos flooring out, and then the building sat there empty for 6 months.
Really?
And suddenly a auction sign went out in the front of the building. So I thought, I wonder if this is my multi-purpose building. So the property's at the back. In the middle is a bunch of federal housing. And then at the front was the landing, which is now the Texas Workforce Solutions building, which is now Hope's multi-purpose building. So I was prayer walking around the building one day, and I went to sit in my car to just kind of pray over it. And my friend from Arkansas texted me, and she said, I don't know what you're doing, but the Lord says that it's Him, and that the answer is yes. So I called my husband and I said, Steve, I was just prayer walking around this building and asking God if it was our multi purpose building. And my friend in Arkansas texted me to say that it's the Lord, and he says it's a yes. So Steve came to the auction that week and bid on the building. And we walked away with a 5,000 square foot multi purpose building for a song because the building had flooded and the Workforce Solutions was not moving back into it. So now what had happened was the Texas Workforce Solutions building had been overcome by God's Workforce Solution. And we had our first building. So what we do inside of that building is our offices are there, we have coaching there, we have a nutrition kitchen. We also have developed a marketplace inside of the landing where we create jobs for mothers while they're in our program. Because the best thing for a mother to do is to go to take her children to school in the morning. And after she's a mama and she's dropped her kids off at school, she can come to the landing and work. And we're teaching work value, how to be a good employee, what God says about work, how to be full of integrity, that kind of thing while they're working with us. And then they leave at 3 to go pick up their children, be a mom, and then they do their classes online at night. So the plan at Hope is that you work part time and then you go to school full time and you get that degree. So you may set a goal to be a nurse and you're going to be there for 4 years. We have a mom who will graduate in May, and she is going to have a bachelor's as a registered nurse, and she'll be a couple of hours away from a second bachelor's in business. So that gives them the flexibility of being a mother and going to school at the same time. And then what we do is we sell those products, and when we sell the products, we turn around and use the money to pay the mothers again.
Hmm.
And so that money just turns around and pays the mother again. And that way they've got money for a budget, they can afford their participation fee, and we're teaching them how to save, pay off their debt, and earn money to purchase a home when they leave.
You've probably have had, well, I'll just ask you, approximately how many clients or cases since when this started have you handled?
We probably just had about 30 families go through, because we started out with one mom, then we started out with 4, because we used half the bill, half the aid at the back to pay for the other half. So we had regular renters in part of
Hmm.
the complex and
Okay.
moms in the other half. We were just kind of using our money wisely to help that rent pay for the other mothers to be in the program. Then we went to 8. And then we started working in governmental housing, which is kind of another part of our story. So we just have 10 moms and 6 seniors in the Hope program. But
That's
we
at
just closed on some
that
properties.
is at one location where you're at. I'm curious to know,
That's
when
right.
did this thing start growing outward?
Well, it's been a process. In 2017, we were trying to buy some federal property. And that was another just a miracle story that's been on this journey. There's been so many miracles along the way, but my daughter lived in Canada, and they were finishing a fellowship in pediatric surgery, and they bought a house in Temple from a woman named Alma Golden. And I had been trying to get an appointment with Dr. Ben Carson's office in Washington, D.C., to actually approach him about buying some federal property and also to share the prototype of Hope Ministries, to offer to actually help with housing solutions inside of federal government, because they're kind of in a mess. They're in a little bit of a mess. But and I do believe that a lot of people are working on some good solutions for that. But so my daughter bought her house from a woman in a Temple, and asked me if I would come and help the woman move out of her house, because she had been in that house for a really long time. And so when I got there to help this woman pack, I found out that she was going to work for Donald Trump. She used to be a pediatrician, and she had turned in her license to be the campaign manager for Dr. Ben Carson, who I had been trying to reach in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
And so Alma and I became really good friends, and Alma moved to Washington, D.C. to work for Donald Trump, because when Dr. Carson threw in the towel for presidency, he told Alma he was going to work for Donald Trump, and he asked Alma to come and work for Donald Trump as well.
Hmm.
So I helped Alma pack. She went to Washington, D.C., and we began a friendship. So when I started praying about going to see Dr. Carson, I was able to call Alma and ask Alma if she would get me an appointment to go see Dr. Carson. And she did. So we wound up flying to Washington, D.C. to meet with Dr. Carson's department. We never met with Dr. Carson himself, but we met with his department and shared the model of Hope Ministries. Not that we wanted any money from them, which they were surprised about that, but we just wanted to offer to assist them with the prototype and to offer some solutions inside of federal housing. Little did I know that they shared with me that day an example of an apartment complex in Chicago. It had at least 800 apartments in it. And they told us that 90% of the occupants in that housing were single mothers with children. Also, I did not know that Dr. Carson was raised in federal housing by a single mother.
It's news to me.
Right. And he was very, very passionate to find solutions for single mothers living in federal housing. And that was part of his project that he was working on while he was in Washington, D.C. So that kind of opened a doorway there. And when we got back, we started speaking with some regional housing authorities, sharing the prototype. And out of that came a preference clause for me to begin to work inside of federal housing. And if a mother applied and wanted to come into our program, we would actually get preference to get our mothers and use their apartment complex to house more families. So we actually started doing that. We started working with our local housing authority and filling up the middle section. At the back we have the 8, at the front we have the landing, and in the middle we have federal housing. But we've now started occupying the federal housing as well in the middle. We kept in contact with Dr. Carson's office, and they would call me and ask me questions about what I was doing and how it was going until Dr. Carson left office. So, but that also allowed me to, I guess, get more exposure. And we have had an opportunity to train a woman from Orlando, Florida, who has actually opened Ruth's House for Transformation in Orlando, Florida. We have trained a woman from Rochester, New York, and she has not opened her ministry yet. We've trained a group from Memphis, Tennessee that opened this past January. We've trained a group in Brazil, and they opened in May of this year. And so what we've just begun to do is share the prototype. We don't want to keep something that was a dream. It wasn't my idea to begin with. And beautiful, amazing, intelligent leaders have come to help me develop this model. And so our desire is to actually share it, because we do believe that it's a solution for a lot of issues facing our nation. We're a nation in crisis. If you think about 9 million single mothers and 18 million fatherless kids, and then if you look at the statistics that face those children, then we've got to do something. And I believe that the something is to use our faith and stop for one family at a time. If I had just stopped for Carla, it would have been enough. But God has allowed me the honor of walking beside a bunch of amazing women. I'll give you an example. We had a mom she left school in the 6th grade. She had 4 children by the time she was 20, had been through a lot of abuse, so much abuse that when she came to live with us, and we squeezed her into a 2-bedroom apartment, 4 kids in a 2-bedroom apartment. But I told her, you can do anything for a couple of years. And so she did. She came, she got her GED, and then she went to the police academy. And now she is a guard inside of a high security prison because she wanted to take the gospel into the darkest places. She has a heart for really broken people because she was one of those broken people, and she's been restored. She is an amazing woman. She is an amazing woman. So that's one of our stories. We also have seniors, and one of our seniors moved to live with us from Delaware. And one thing I discovered is that single women across the nation, there are 40 million seniors in the United States right now.
And that's going up.
5 years, double. It will double in 5 years. Yes, I'm one of them. I'm one of those seniors. But, seniors, there's so many seniors that don't have enough money to live. And so This particular senior was living in Delaware. We met in a crowd of close to 1 million people in Washington, D.C., at a prayer event. We became friends, but I had no idea that she had been adopted, never married, never had any children, and her parents had passed away. So she has come to live with us from Delaware, and she's part of the Blessing at Hope. So anyway, we've continued to just grow and expand. And this past year in August, we went to Porto Alegre, Brazil, to meet with the federal government there. They recently opened in Brazil, but the federal government is very excited about what my friend Dr. Paula Togni is the leader there in Brazil, who opened Hope for Brazil. It's actually just called Hope Brazil, if you want to
Hmm.
look it up online. And they have been asked to open that model in across the nation of Brazil. They're hoping to do it in like 50 different locations because there's nothing like it in Brazil that would take a woman for 3 to 4 years and their children. That's the beautiful part is when you have a multi-generational model, you can actually give 3 to 4 years of trauma therapy for the kids too. So we had the opportunity to go to Brazil this last year, and we flew to Brasilia and met with the federal government to promote Dr. Togni and her plan to do that model there, the Hope model in Brazil. Then we flew to her state and met with her state government, and they're going to provide her with housing. So, anyway, it's just been a wild journey of expansion. And about 2 weeks ago, we had a Zoom where we shared with Columbus, Ohio, Rhode Island, Minneapolis, and California to help them use the Hope model if they decide that that's what they're going to do to provide opportunities for single mothers in their cities as well.
Judy, there probably have been numerous victories, numerous success stories, heartwarming, inspirational stories. Some of them you've already shared, but it can't all be good, can it? I mean, there had to have been some hardships and setbacks along the way.
Well, I know you probably know, Mark, doing anything that you feel like God has called you to do is going to be hard. If it's bigger than you can do, it's going to take a lot of faith. It's going to take a lot of tenacity. And at one point, I really wasn't sure I was going to make it because I was trying to do the ministry by myself. And that's when I started calling out and asking God to bring me partners to help me. I just couldn't do it anymore. And He did. He began to bring me partners. I think one of the saddest things is that not all the moms make it. And we're a drug free, alcohol free environment. And while they're with us, they take a break from dating because those two things are the cycles that catch a woman up. If they get in a bad, they're unable to make good selections of men to date, they just continue to get in that cycle. So they need a break from that. But we have girls that, choose to go back to drug addiction and they choose to go back to dating relationships. And it's super sad for me because they take the kids with them when they go.
Hmm.
But I have to honor my covenant and the structures that I have, and I will hold them accountable because everybody else in there is working hard and breaking through. So I'm going to provide a safe environment for everyone, but that is heartbreaking. That is heartbreaking. Also, too, sometimes graduates will still make a bad decision, and that's tough for me to see them take a good credit score and get 3 credit cards when they graduate because we had good credit and they could do it and they did it. So, sometimes we'll still see somebody who graduates make some bad decisions along the way too. But by far, the ones that are making it far exceed my, my disappointments And if I hadn't known that God called me to do it, if He hadn't given me a dream, I would have quit when things got hard. But because I kept being able to go back to a word that God gave me, I have a lot of faith. If I think God has told me to do something, I have a lot of faith for it. I'll do it, and um, and I'll put the pressure on Him to follow through, because really all He needs is a yes. Everything else is for His glory. Everything else is for His honor. He just needs uh, someone who will say yes. And so I said yes, and I put the pressure on Him all the time. I'm like, this was your idea. This was your idea. So you're gonna have to support me. You're gonna have to help me, because this was your idea. And He has never let me down. Never.
You're making me laugh because I remember I had this old beat up truck. I still have it actually, and that's all I had, for transportation. And it was broke down, and I didn't have the money to fix it. So I told God, I said, God, I gave you, that's your truck. So God, your truck's broke down, and if it's your will, it's your bill. So take care of that, would you? And
Yeah.
and honestly, within a few days, somebody I was doing some work for wanted me to work, and I told him I couldn't get to the job. He fixed my truck, and he was a brother in Christ. And now I had to pay him back, but he just kind of took it out of the jobs I was doing for him. And he said, so many stories, so many ministries. And I think I said this earlier, but I just feel compelled to repeat it if I'm repeating it. I've spent a lot of time in disaster relief, and a lot of the meals that we provide, that's just something to help them get through the day.
Mm-hmm.
Even the efforts that we do after that. Remember, you were telling the story about the flooding and how the drywall had, what happens, the insulation acts as a wick behind the wall, and it wicks the water up and ruins the walls. And we've gone in long after the camera crews were gone. It was no longer a headline because we have to wait for the water to recede,
Mm-hmm.
But even when you factor that in, so much of the relief efforts, whether it's through a church, a charitable organization, or even the government, is a short-term. I'm not going to use the word investment because I want to reserve that word for what you are doing. You are investing yourselves spiritually, financially, and emotionally in the lives of these single moms, with the idea of we're in it for the long haul. I don't know of anybody that committed. Judy, I don't know of anybody that committed. And if this can become the model, we are told to make disciples, and we need to walk
Right.
together with one another. Even in our spiritual, even in some of our evangelistic efforts, we come into a town, we descend on it, crusades, these are all very short term in their orientation, and they're okay. They take care of that short term need, but who's going to take care of the long term need? And I think your vision goes over the horizon compared with anything that I have ever heard of, and I'm just grateful to hear the story. Now, folks, we did go a little long today because we could, and I'm glad that we could. Thank you, Lord. But let me give you some. Let me kind of look into the crystal ball and gaze over the horizon. Judy is working with a lot of people, and Judy will be recommending guests to come on our program in the future to share the stories. And I would just ask you to share more stories, but we might preempt a story that one of your people might better tell for themselves. But Judy, phenomenal. How's your husband in all this? I know you shared it with him early, but does he have any role other than just being your cheerleader?
Well, we decided to sell our rental property that we had. We had a rent house, and we sold that house to buy that apartment complex. So he has been a financial supporter. He also is like a proud dad over those girls. We have three girls of our own, and so he loves them and comes and tells them that he loves them. But he's still in business. He's still working, and he supports me, financially and also morally. He's just there with me, and we wouldn't have done anything if he hadn't said, "Let's do it
Hmm.
together." So, yeah.
Question,
Well,
and it's a sincere one. It's not a criticism, but I'm curious. You're focused, at least for now, on single moms. So we've got these households without a male father figure in that family. And
yeah.
that's the way, God intended the family to have a father, a mother.
Mhm.
How are you addressing that gap?
Yeah, that breaks my heart, and it breaks the moms' hearts because they don't want to be single. They don't want to spend their life alone. And I do pray that somebody is ministering to men. I believe there are some men's ministries out there, but there needs to be some long term ministries. I've had people ask me, what about single men with children? What about them
Well,
when they're raising their children?
I'm
All
I'm
I
going to
know is
preach
that
and
I have
say,
my lane.
yeah, I think there's men's ministries out there. I know there are, and they're just wringing their hands when they have their meetings, saying, "What can we do?" Well, okay, without getting into a relationship with the moms, they could certainly play softball with those children on the weekends. Uh, Cars need oil changes. My heart just
Right,
goes out to these children who had nothing to do with this. I mean, they're not.
right.
And without a father figure, the deck is really stacked against you. You're kind of trying to draw
It
to an
is.
inside straight.
Yeah. The beauty of having the children is that you have boys and girls,
Mm-hmm.
and we teach our kids what it looks like to be an abiding father. What does God the Father look like? He's a father that remains. He's a father that's faithful, and we have a chance to teach the children so that even if we're skipping a generation, we're hopefully healing the children. But I can tell you, we have a lot of mentors that walk alongside our kids. Um, J.D. Winiker has been one of them, and I know he's one of the speakers on this show. But he actually has taken some of our kids home for the weekend and become a family to one of our moms that had no family. She drove here from North Carolina, and so she couldn't go home when it came time to be holidays. But Jim and Diane began to be that family for them. And so we do have a lot of mentors. But the sad thing is that I want husbands, I want healthy men who know what it means to be a healthy father, who will be faithful and stand by a family. That's what I want. And I just know that's not my lane.
Mm-hmm.
But I hope somebody's doing it out there, because we're going to have a lot of amazing, beautiful women who don't want to live their life alone. And I do want to say one thing too, that we support frontline ministries. Moms can come to us from like a safety shelter or a drug addiction unit. They cannot be a drug addict. We don't do that, and we're not a safety shelter. We're what I consider second level, because I'm also just there to help a mom who's working two or three jobs and is not ever going to get out of poverty if she doesn't have a chance to stop and go to school
Mm-hmm.
and get an education, clean up her credit, get a car, and get trained for a job. So we do support all the frontline ministries, and those can come from there. But we are also just there for single mothers. So I say everybody's like a snowflake. They've got their own story, they're unique and special. and they're beautiful. Every one of them is beautiful, and they're a story that's worth telling. They're a story worth fighting for. They are, and that's what I'm all about, is fighting for them. And I
Well,
do pray that somewhere there's some good guys because we need them. We can do a match, a dating service. If
yeah.
anybody knows any good guys, let me know.
Well, yeah, what you shared about JD did not surprise me whatsoever, because we've all come to know uh, him and his wife, and his, that they are the most hospitable and giving couple that you will ever find. And of course, that's something we kind of specialize down here in the South, just taking care of
That's
people.
right.
So, all right. Well, Judy, gosh, it's been so wonderful hearing stories of redemption and turnarounds, changed lives, and just keep doing what you're doing. Send us some more stories. Send us some more people, because we're hungry to hear more. Anytime you're ready.
Thank you. I'll send one to you as soon as you're ready. Let me know.
Okay, we're standing by. Appreciate it, Judy.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, folks, that was fun, kind of going long like that, wasn't it? Yeah. All right. Well, that if that doesn't move you, I don't know what would. We've had over 200 individual guests appear on this program. Wow, how wonderful! Thank you, Lord. Folks, I know that it's late. Well, kind of, but if you want to hang around, Barbara and I last night worked on something that we hope that everybody will not only take advantage of, but will kind of lean forward into. But we're getting things kicked off, and we appreciate all the support and enthusiasm we've initially seen. It's really wonderful. Before I leave, tomorrow night we have Catherine Pace Hour, starting off at 9 p.m. And then, of course, J.D. Winninger will come our way. By the way, the doctor released me to begin running again. My blood pressure is low enough that she said that I can kind of ease back in. She said, don't try to get it all back the first day or even the first week. So, yeah, I got out and shook around a little bit today. Kind of felt good. Not really. But anyway, I love you guys. Thank you so much. If there's anything that, I don't like to use up a bunch of time making announcements. But if you want to know more or become more involved in pjnet.tv and its mission, I hope that you'll contact me or Barbara Byers, Sunbelt Girl in our chat room, she's Barbara Byers in our chat room. Just make yourself known, and there's a position on this team for anybody that wants to play. We'll find something meaningful for you to do, and we need to reach more people, tell more stories, give God more glory all the time. I have, as always, 2 questions before I leave. I want to leave you with, because they've helped me, and I think they're important. Hope you'll ask yourself these questions, both of them, and answer them candidly to yourself. What is the boldest thing, the scariest thing, the thing that took the most faith, thing that you've ever done in the kingdom of Christ? Have you had a vision? Has God spoken to you in that still small voice? And you say, I can't do that. That's too big. God knew that. Okay. So, the second question. When was it? When you did that bold thing? I hope none of us are satisfied with our answers to either of those 2 questions.